Welcome to today's explainer. If you really look at human history, you'll start to realize a pretty stark truth. Humanity is essentially divided into just two types of people, those who are controlled and those who do the controlling. But the craziest part about this whole dynamic, the people being controlled almost never realize it's happening to them. Over 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli actually mapped out the exact laws of power, manipulation, and influence. And honestly, hilariously enough, he ended up dying in political exile despite writing the literal ultimate playbook. So what we're going to break down in this explainer today is how those exact 500-year-old principles are still being flawlessly applied by the world's most calculating minds to control modern social dynamics, human behavior, and our everyday relationships. But hey, before we go any further, I need to deliver a very serious warning. The 20 dark psychology tactics we're about to unpack are incredibly powerful, and frankly, they're dangerous. We are presenting this forbidden knowledge strictly for educational awareness. The whole goal here is for you to use this to understand the hidden games that are constantly being played all around you, absolutely not to inflict harm on anybody else. So fair warning, if you choose to stick around through to the end of this explainer, your perception of human interaction is literally going to change forever. Once you see these mechanics in action, there is absolutely no unseeing them. You ready? Let's begin. So the crucial point is that human nature fundamentally hasn't changed since Machiavelli's time, but the methods, oh, they certainly have. Today's master manipulators don't use outdated, obvious brute force anymore. Instead, they operate by quietly bending perceptions and shaping desires, right up until other people willingly and happily align with their rules. To make these 20 psychological secrets super easy to digest, we've organized this explainer into 4 distinct pillars: perception and leverage, uncertainty, hidden influence, and finally, master patterns.
Okay, let's dive into this with pillar number 1, perception and leverage.
This entire first section is basically built on Machiavelli's absolute core rule, that appearance is far, far more powerful than reality. Manipulators, they never reveal the whole truth. Why? Because if you're totally transparent and just endlessly available, you become predictable, and predictable is boring. By remaining completely unpredictable, others get absolutely obsessed with figuring you out. Manipulators use strategic emotional scarcity. I mean, think about that one colleague who deliberately takes hours to reply to a simple message, instantly making their time feel way more valuable than yours. Furthermore, they completely master the frame of the game through calm detachment, and they secretly guide the emotional climate of a room without even uttering a single word. It's wild. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is secret number 4, the art of selective vulnerability. See, someone who is entirely cold is just hated, but a person who is completely soft, they just get exploited. So the dark secret here is presenting a highly controlled, strong exterior, but then carefully choosing incredibly rare moments to show just a tiny crack in your armor. This calculated illusion of openness uniquely binds people to you because it makes the target feel like they've actually earned access to a hidden side that literally no one else gets to see. And this gets right to the heart of the matter. We all love to think of ourselves as these deeply rational creatures, right? But the dark truth is that human beings are almost entirely ruled by their emotions. The principle here is simple, yet devastating. If someone can influence your emotional state, they are directly controlling your decision-making. Period. All right, let's transition to pillar number 2, uncertainty. Synthesizing secrets 6, 7, and 8, we can see exactly how master manipulators weaponize doubt to create incredibly high social value for themselves. First off, they plant quiet, subtle little seeds of doubt to show that their world definitely doesn't revolve around any one person. Second, when people naturally push boundaries, like subtly insulting them in a meeting or trying to spark some drama, the manipulator remains completely, totally unbothered. This establishes a dominant, unspoken hierarchy where the target basically has to adjust to the manipulator's calm. And third, they don't forge loyalty through constant kindness. Instead, they do it by becoming the absolute anchor for a person's most extreme emotional highs and lows. I really want to drive this psychological rule home for a second. Absolute certainty is the graveyard of desire. When someone is 100% sure of their standing with you, when they know exactly what you're going to do and exactly when you'll do it, their effort completely stops. Desire thrives heavily in that gray area, the tension between security and the intense fear of loss.
Moving right along to pillar number 3, hidden influence.
Now, systemic environmental control is all about setting the stage so perfectly that the target plays their part without ever realizing there's even a script. Manipulators build this compelling world that others naturally compete to fit into. They ration their accessibility, so their time always feels earned rather than just assumed, and they plant ideas so subtly, you'll swear the thought was entirely your own idea. It's basically the psychological equivalent of playing hard to get, but totally weaponized for everyday life and professional advancement.
Let's look really closely at Secret 13 for a second, the weapon of silence. Most people honestly just talk way too much, mostly because they are terrified of uncomfortable silence. But Machiavelli, he understood the profound power of omission. When you use silence strategically, you force the other person's mind to run in absolute overdrive, desperately trying to fill that empty space with their own doubts, assumptions, and anxieties. Silence literally makes the manipulator entirely unreadable, and because of that, incredibly intimidating. Let's move to and see how this builds into our final and most complex pillar. Number 4, master patterns. Breaking down Secret 15, we encounter the sunk cost fallacy. This is where the manipulator deliberately creates subtle situations where others must invest massive amounts of time, emotional energy, and effort just to earn their validation. I mean, think about the person who stays in a deeply toxic relationship or a completely dead-end job for years. Why do they do it? Simply because walking away means having to admit to themselves that the last 5 years were completely, utterly wasted. It's a brutal trap. So, to firmly lock targets in, manipulators grant what we call controlled victories. They'll let you win a minor argument about, say, where to eat lunch, making you feel totally empowered, all while they secretly control the entire relationship's grand direction. They also anchor high emotional breakthroughs directly to their physical presence. They always leave interactions exactly at the absolute peak, right before the energy fades. And they constantly blur that line between intense pleasure and a healthy fear of loss. And this brilliantly illustrates Secret 20, which is perhaps the single most powerful move in dark psychology, strategic absence. See how a perfectly timed, calculated absence forces the target's mind into absolute overdrive. Step 1, you hit a peak moment of connection. Step 2, the manipulator executes a strategic, temporary disappearance. Step 3, this sudden void forces the target to replay every single detail of the interaction, questioning absolutely everything and craving some sort of resolution. They only realize the intense value of the connection when it's suddenly, inexplicably gone. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to transition the tone here from cautionary to protective. True power doesn't actually come from forcing people to do what you want. It really lies in understanding these hidden currents of human behavior. Now that you've seen the playbook, you get to transition from being a blind pawn to a shielded master. You can absolutely empower yourself to use this knowledge as a shield, protecting your peace and spotting manipulation from miles away, whether that's in the media, at your workplace, or even right inside your own social circles. So, I'm going to leave you with this lingering, provocative question to ponder. Are you playing the game or are you being played? Start examining your past interactions and the dynamics happening around you today. The mechanics of human nature are always operating in the background, whether you choose to see them or not. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, stay sharp out there.